I feel like everyone dreams of a great physique. Everyone wants to be productive. Everyone wants to cultivate a healthy lifestyle. Problem is, most people aren't ready to pay the price that associated to it. And that's the precise reason why most people don't have those qualities. There's a way to become that person, the one that quietly works on themselves and shows up a year later just to impress everyone by their transformation. It feels like it's costing you so much time, energy, motivation, and you weren't told about it. Over hundreds of coaching hours, I've seen a pattern. There's a clear difference between the people that really end up making the change and those who talk about it but wait for it to happen. And the key difference lies in your ability to recalibrate your expectations. And today, instead of giving you some random fitness advice, I'm going to share with you the 4 actual steps you will have to face if you want to change your lifestyle for the better. Most people start on a burst of motivation. Then what happens is that they encounter the frustration that's associated into their brain not be willing to change. They try to resist it, but eventually the motivation fades away and then they just stop engaging in the behavior altogether. That's when your brain shows up with all those different excuses that you can use. It's not the right time for me right now. It costs too much money. I don't have the time for it, whatever it is. But this scenario is exactly what is supposed to be happening. It's part of how you build any habit or achieve any results for that matter. Most people will start out optimistic. They will think today's the day and they're going to be that person who overhauls their old lifestyle and eats well, exercise, read more, quit alcohol, and whatever it might be for you. But then reality hits and you're faced with the cost that's really associated to the change that you're seeking. Your ego takes a punch and you realize that you have to reevaluate the amount of resources that the change that you're seeking demands. And for example, I'm not trying to shoot at them, but people out there on social media, they love to inspire and fuel your motivation. But few of them will actually tell you the truth, which is that in order to change, you will have to pay a price. And the price is that you will have to keep engaging without seeing any results at first. You'll have to keep pushing through and just be hopeful. Most people don't get past this point. Most people keep replaying the first step, relying on their motivation, encountering the frustration, and then feeling stuck, unlucky, unable to break free, and stopping. The problem, and we talked about it in previous videos, but the problem is the very thing you're relying on in order to change, which is your motivation. Motivation can help, but it's not enough. It's not what's going to take you where you want to go. Think about it. If you're out of shape, how long has it been since you had an active lifestyle? Months, years, decades maybe? The greater the change, the bigger the price that you have to pay for it. Your brain is known to man to not change overnight, contrary to popular beliefs. Therefore, the transformation that you're seeking will have to be gradual and slow, and that's just the way it is. You'll get out the same way you got in, and it's definitely not motivation that will drive you there. It's fairly easy to start something new. Even if you see some people struggle at an early stage, taking the first step is usually straightforward. Getting the membership, enrolling in a class, starting to build a new skill, it's all within reach and you can sense that. And from what I've seen as a coach, it's rarely a problem of not knowing what to do. If you're out of shape, you know that you should eat better, move more. If you're behind in school, you know you should study more. If the relationship isn't fulfilling, you know you need to work on your communication skills. 99% of the time, the real issue isn't a lack of knowledge about the solution, it's an expectation problem. Because when you start doing what's needed, you expect quick improvements and rapid results, thinking that it's just how it's supposed to work. That is step 1. You will hope for the better, thinking that it's not that hard, not that demanding, and if other people can do it, why not you? Fair enough. Unfortunately, we as humans are subject to psychological biases, one of them which is the planning fallacy. This bias makes you overestimate the resources that you have and underestimate the efforts that are required to take on a specific challenge. Your brain is convinced that if you just do this one thing, you'll see results quickly. Even though realistically the odds are against you, you just tend to trust what you feel you can do instead of the actual numbers. And at that moment, you need to prep yourself mentally for what's ahead. And if you're watching this video, I suspect you're in this step right now. You're probably underestimating how much effort the change you're truly seeking requires. This is how your brain works, by the way. It wants to protect you from struggling because it sees struggling as a potential psychological threat to your well-being. And at that moment, you're probably comfortable in your life. So that means you'd be uncomfortable. So why would you when you can be comfortable? And if you take that first step, if you get that gym membership, if you enroll in that class, telling yourself that the hardest part is over since you've already taken that first step, you will have a problem. Because within days or weeks, you will scrape the perfect window and notice that you're not seeing the results that you wanted. Even worse, the motivation is not here anymore. That's when your optimistic expectations will crumble, leaving you frustrated, unmotivated, and questioning the whole process. And at this point, your ego takes a hit and you find yourself lost in the dark. After the optimistic part comes the pessimistic one. If you keep engaging after realizing that you won't have to reevaluate the resources that you need to put in order to get what you want from it, then you will find yourself in the second phase, where it feels like you're not making any progress at all. Like the change is draining you without giving nothing in return. The typical example that I see over and over again is you've been going to the gym for 2 full weeks. You've been attending, but now you're sore, struggling to find the time to make it happen because you overestimated. No, because you underestimated the time it will take you, and your brain is just here reminding you how much of the gym memberships costs every month. And on top of that, you're just not seeing the results that you expected. In a sense, this is good because this is a necessary step of the process. Your expectations, they have been crushed. And your brain is trying to convince you to stop because it sees the efforts are as too costly for little payoff. This is where most people quit. They realize it's much harder than they thought it would be, and the results, the amazing results that they wanted, the amazing results that this magic new solution promised them, isn't happening and will not be. They can find a lot of comfort in knowing that this feeling of frustration is just part of the process. At least I've found immense comfort in that. No matter what you're working towards, it could be a skill, it could be working on your fitness, better job, better relationship. The more meaningful the challenge, the tougher it feels to make progress. And this is especially true for young adults as you just don't have that many experiences to compare the struggle to. Because change is less about what you do and more about what you think, what you believe you can do. It's about reshaping long-held beliefs, which is why it feels so difficult. You will have to adjust things you've thought to be true and unchangeable for your entire life. If you want to get in shape, for instance, you will have to work on changing and actualizing your beliefs about food and gratifications bit by bit. And when you find yourself in that pessimistic phase, a few days into the change, you will face a decision. You can choose to follow your brain's lead and look for a way out that won't threaten your ego and won't help you reshape your beliefs. If you do that, you will stop. I'm telling you, you will stop going to the gym, you'll stop eating well, you stop staying in on Friday nights, and you will just go back to the old pattern. Or you can take the hit, you can accept to pay the price that is associated to your journey and just know that it's longer than you expected, but you're just moving forward anyway, regardless of the price, because you need that change. You don't just want it, you need it. So at that point, you've been through the first high of change and the first low. and you've checked through your first reality check. If you're still engaging at this point, I mean, that means that you're really serious about this change. And in my case, the most recent example of this process has been writing. And here I'm not talking about making good progress. I'm just talking about being able to sit and write for 1 or 2 hours, because before it was just unimaginable. And in your life, in the change that you're seeking, if you reach that point, it's like hitting the jackpot for the first time. Not because you've achieved something great and you're making millions of dollars, or that you have the dream physique that people on Instagram have, but because you've managed to make that a daily practice, or almost daily, for example, when it comes to the gym. This is the key that you're looking for, the first one. Because now, when it's a habit, then you can make progress. But doing so requires an ego recalibration. You will need to drastically adjust the expectations that you had about what it takes, how long it will take you, what you're capable of doing. All of that will be mixed and blended, and you'll have to sort it out. And to be honest, I think that the worst part to confront yourself to is the lack of competency. You will need to accept being the newbie, the beginner. That's why it hits your ego that much. You will have to face the fact that others who have been doing this thing for longer than you have are just better than you. And the good thing about the gym is that this is really obvious. And I think that's why most people struggle that much to make it a habit. It's because you can literally see people training and it just reflects how much you don't know. And that's just okay. But it's really hard because you can see people that have been training for decades and you're just here on day 2 and you feel really small and skinny and everything. And that's just how it's supposed to happen. And by the way, those people that have been training for decades are the people you should go to if you need help. And if you ask them politely, they will help you most of the time. Shame and frustration are your biggest opponents when it comes to change, as you will feel out of place and unsure about what to do. That being said, this confrontation with reality can be pretty brutal, and it has to be expected. You will be the new guy that doesn't know anything about this stuff, and you have to be okay with that if you want to make progress. That's why I call it ego recalibration in the first place. You have to sit down with yourself and you have to admit, okay, I'm way more out of shape than I thought I was. And I don't even know where to start. I can't even do a proper squat. And if you feel that way, you should definitely check out Fitness Autonomy, because that's why I've designed that program in the first place. And if you make it through this recalibration, this third step, you will start to see real progress. And at that point in your journey, you will have understood that the key is to rethink your expectations and to shift your focus away from getting immediate results. Instead, you should aim to make this new behavior a consistent part of your lifestyle. That's when you start to win, when you're practicing a habit on a daily basis. That's when it compounds. But most people don't change unless it's a life or death situation. They struggle to stay committed to something that doesn't bring them instant gratification. And I get that. It's really hard to bear the idea of putting big efforts into this thing every day without seeing any obvious signs of progress. Yet at first, this is exactly what you should be doing. The reality is that it's very hard to make a new behavior a habit that is automatic. But it's very easy to optimize the habit for results when it's already a habit. So just focus on that. Just focus on making this thing a habit. And then it will be much easier. Over time, you will just internalize this mindset, and your time horizon will expand to match the actual difficulty of mastering any skill. And again, by shifting your attention from immediate results to steady improvement, you will eventually achieve the outcomes that you're looking for. But that's only if you stick to it long enough for that to happen. Because we live in a world where quick fixes are promised, in a world where you can become the Rock if you just go and do sauna 3 times per week and expose yourself to red lights 2 times per week. You need to anchor in your mind that making real progress comes from months and years of dedication and consistency. Cultivating that idea will be the thing that gets you to those rapid results, which aren't quick, by the way. And at the end of the day, what truly matters is not the results, but your commitment to this thing. And if you give it your full and unconditional commitment, the results there just follow. So I hope this helps. Trust the process.